Hi everyone, my sound is okay and I'm back after my my few days off. I needed a break, as many of you know. I said in my live stream last week that I was going to take some days off. I was feeling tired and boy did I need to get gone on Thursday after what I said. I'll explain it later. Hi everyone in the chat. Hi everyone, if you can please, if you're watching, please like and subscribe to the channel and obviously share if you can. If you like the stream when we're live like this, it really does help with the algorithm. So smash that like button, please, everyone. For those of you asking, yes, I had a lovely break. Thanks very much. I went down to London and saw some really big ass dinosaur bones, which was really quite cool. Got plenty of fresh air, lots of exercise, to the point where muscles are aching that haven't ached for a long time, but that's great. And I've come back refreshed and ready to rock and roll. So let's go. This is an ex-parrot. Yes, it is G-Wiz. I'll explain that first up tonight. Hi Uncle Trino. Hi Bernard. Wolves FC is here as well. Hi Wolves FC. From the land I am recording from? No. Streaming from. Let's get straight into it, shall we? Not the mess about, because this has been been a really fun week. Especially for me, because everything it looks like I said was going to come true is coming true. So last week I said in my live stream that I was going to take a break at some stage because I was feeling a little bit frazzled covering the news. It has been pretty hectic, and on Thursday I saw this, and at this stage I thought, yeah, I really need to get the hell out of here straight away, because Nick Robinson tweeted this out. He said, "I've heard it all now. The Brexit secretary has just voted against the motion that he'd just been arguing for. Has anyone get a better word than omnishambles?" To be honest, I think you would need to make a new word up for whatever Brexit is now, what it's transpired into over these last nearly 3 years. You would have to definitely have to make up a new word. I don't think omnishambles even covers it. My idea is something like monster clusterfuck, a clusterfuckathon, a clusterfuck that just keeps going on and on and on. I think that's yeah, my word for it. But at that stage, as I said, this is the state of politics in the country, which is holding another country's gold hostage because they don't think their democracy is quite up to scratch. And obviously I'm talking about Venezuela there, and the Bank of England withholding £1.2 billion worth of their gold, I think, just because, hey, they don't think their democracy is up to scratch. And I said I'm going away for a couple of days because there is no way I can cover this probably without screaming at the screen and bursting blood vessels, and there really wouldn't have been. That's just, it's pathetic. It went on and on and on last week, and it's still gone on into this week, and thankfully this guy has put an end to this nonsense that has been going on. Yesterday he put an end to it by the look of it. They're still talking about it now, but for those of you that need a little bit of a catch-up as to the events that have led up to today, let's try and cover it as best way as I can, because this is preposterous. It really is. Theresa May has tried to get through a dead pallet as the agreement with the EU to leave the European Union in an orderly Brexit, so they say. And she tried to present this dead pallet to the House of Commons on in December. Back in December, she tried to present this dead pallet, and Parliament said, we're not going to vote on that. If you put that forward, we're going to have to vote it down by a colossal amount, because if you put that forward, we're going to vote it down. It is a dead pallet. She said, okay, well, go away and I'll try and come up with something else. And then in January, she comes back with the same dead pallet and tries to pass it through. And obviously, the House of Commons said, I'm afraid, Prime Minister, that's a dead pallet. Although it convinced some people somehow that it was a Brexit. Obviously, it's a no Brexit dead parrot. And they said, go away and try again. And then she came back in March with the same dead parrot with a piece of paper attached to it that's saying that this is a non-binding agreement. It says this is not a dead parrot. It's preposterous, but this is basically what has happened. And it looks like she was going to try again for a fourth time to try and get this dead parrot passed through Parliament and try and bully people into choosing this no Brexit if people want a Brexit, and saying that this is the only option. And of which, obviously, John Bercow, as you can see here, this is what the papers are full of today, and there's lots of talk of him in the papers and on Twitter, because he finally told Theresa May, I'm afraid, the parrot is dead. It's passed on. It's no more. It's ceased to be. It has expired and gone on to meet its maker. This Prime Minister is an ex-parrot. So finally he stepped in, and she can't keep presenting now this dead parrot to Parliament without it obviously radically changing from a dead parrot into something other that is not a dead parrot or a dead animal of any kind. So you would think that everybody would say that John Bercow is a hero, wouldn't you? You would think that, you know, he's a hero, and everybody is obviously very happy that he stepped in. Well, not so much, because this was what he was subjected to this morning on his walk into work. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is the BBC, believe it or not, that are doing this, because it's out on the BBC and they haven't said it's good. They haven't credited it to anybody else. So I'm assuming this is a BBC reporter doing this to John Bercow because he stepped in and told Theresa May, you can't keep trying to present this thing to Parliament that is not Brexit, that's a no Brexit without it radically changing. And this is what he gets subjected to this morning.
How do you explain to the public what you did yesterday, Mr. Bercow? It was a very old precedent.
Does it matter if it's an old precedent or not?
You said in January that... Mr. Bercow, you said...
I really feel you ought to get yourself some coffee or tea. I did offer to buy you all coffee and tea, but you declined my kind offer.
Can I just say here, just the way he handles this is absolutely brilliant. He's a gentleman, the guy is. I'm not sure I would have the patience to respond to these reporters who are basically doorstepping him here, let's face it, on his way to work. I'm not sure I could respond in the same gentlemanly manner that he has, but I'll carry it. Just listen to what he was subjected to this morning.
But you've obviously already drunk lots of coffee or tea, and I wish you well. It's a very, very impressive bobble hat you're wearing there. Or perhaps not a bobble hat, but a hat of sorts. Anyway,
you said in January
I'm sure people are so very grateful to you for showing such an interest at this time of the morning.
It's a very interesting story, Mr. Bercow.
Very well done.
You said in January that Parliament can't rely on old precedents, Mr. Bercow.
Careful, there are cars coming along here. I'm not going to sacrifice myself for your benefit. I know that you attach great weight to what you think, but perhaps you'd be kind enough to allow me to proceed.
How do you explain...
I know you attach great weight to what you think. That's a great... I'm going to have to remember that one.
Your decision
Very good of you to do so.
Okay.
Very well done.
Lots of people are annoyed at this decision. What would you reply to that? Are you trying to delay Brexit? Postpone it? You said in January that Parliament can't only rely on precedent. This is a very old precedent. 17th century one. What made you choose to dig it up yesterday, Mr. Bercow? Do you think it's the right decision? What next for Brexit, Mr. Bercow?
Perhaps, gentlemen, you'd allow me to proceed to work. Thank you. And I wish you a good day. Thank you very much indeed.
It's funny, isn't it? They only go after politicians when they're actually going against something that the establishment wants. The normally friendly right-wing press would never do that to one of their own, would they? They finally do it when the guy has stepped in, actually on behalf of the nation, really, to stop this absolute nonsense carrying on. He's had a kicking this morning, an absolute kicking in the media. I mean, this is just a few of the headlines. This is from Juliet Brown. Tory press angry and inciting hatred against a man who is doing his job. Bercow has legitimately and rightly said that MPs can't vote for a third time on the basically same deal. Why would we want them to, and why the hysteria? This is just a selection in the newspapers. Bollocks to Bercow, said the scum. Didn't realise that was here, otherwise I wouldn't have shown that, by the way. I don't usually show this son on this scum on this channel. The Brexit destroyer, said the Daily Express. The Brexit destroyer they go with. Nothing there for the first time in, I think, 20 years about Princess Diana. Even not Princess Diana off the front page. Smirk that says Brexit be damned, said the Daily File. And of course, Bercow is sabotaging Brexit deal. Today's number 10. So they've all come out, obviously in unison, against him. And that's what happens if you do things, you know, on behalf of the country in Westminster. This is an absolute joke. Because it's not like John Bercow didn't actually suggest that he was going to do this, you know, guys. He said he did, and I want to give a shout out to Rick Crawley here, who spotted this, because he said clearly many people weren't paying attention. The House of Commons 5 days ago. John Bercow gave plenty of warning. This is on March the 19th, so this is 5 days ago. And he told the House that he was going to do this if Theresa May kept bringing the deal back to the House of Commons. This is something the media didn't pick up on. Take a listen.
Interrupting the run.
Right. Start again.
I haven't heard, but I have now. Point of order, Angela Eagle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Secretary of State has just made it clear that the government's intention is to keep putting the same deal back to the House over and over and over again, even though it's been decisively defeated twice now, possibly ad infinitum. Isn't that out of order?
There are historical precedents for the way in which such matters are regarded. I don't need to treat of them now, and no ruling is required now. There may be people who have an opinion about it. I'm not really preoccupied with that, but a ruling would be made about that matter at the appropriate time, and I'm grateful to the Right Honourable Lady for reminding me that such a ruling might at some point in the future be required. Secretary of State.
So as you can hear there, he said this. He said he was going to do this. He warned. John Bercow did. He warned he was going to do this. And there is a law. You can't keep bringing the same deal back over and over again, especially when the clock is ticking as it is. Because Thursday will mark, believe it or not, Thursday this week, Thursday the 21st, I believe, of March 2019, will mark 1,000 days having passed since the result of the last referendum. Just think about that. 1,000 days have passed since the day after the last referendum will have passed on Thursday this week. 1,000 days since that date. The Eiffel Tower was built in less time than that. The Chrysler Building was built in less time than that. The Empire State Building was built in less time than 1,000 days. The Burj Khalifa Hotel in Dubai, I believe, was built in less time than they have done, than that has passed since we voted to leave the European Union in the referendum. They have written, filmed, and are just about to put out on air the final season of Game of Thrones in much less than 1,000 days. That will come out next month, April the 9th. They've done all that in 1,000 days. So after 1,000 days, where are we? After 1,000 days, well, as far as a deal goes, we're exactly where we were 998 days ago. Exactly, as far as a deal goes. With 10 days to go until Brexit, until we leave. Now, Theresa May has got a mandate from the Houses of Parliament to go to the EU and ask for an extension of Article 50 I believe the latest is she's going to ask for an extension of 3 months until June the 30th. Yeah, June the 30th, that'll be 3 months. But it could be extended for up to 2 years. So it could be 5 years it would take, and there's no doubt, there's no obviously guarantee that after 5 years we'll leave. And of course, all 27 EU member countries, member states, have to agree to this extension. Now, I can't see them not, because it would be bad for the EU, but who's to say that a state might be pissed off at the United Kingdom or pissed off at the EU and want to throw a spanner in the works? You know, the United Kingdom, for instance, have been meddling in Spanish politics recently with getting rid of the Integrity Initiative, following Commonwealth-funded Mockingbird-like operation, meddling in their politics, stopping Pedro Baños becoming the director of intelligence over there in Spain because, of all things, he'd appeared on RT and Sputnik. Maybe Spain would say, nah, balls to them. Or maybe Greece would go, hey, you know what? Sod it. We say no just because the EU wants an extension. After the way they've been treated, who could blame them? So if that were to happen, and we leave, because the default is we leave at the end of this month in 10 days' time, if that were to happen, then the people would get pretty much close to what they voted for. They have called this obviously a crashing out and a no-deal Brexit, propagandising it, making it as toxic as possible, because they don't want to give you it, of course. But even if that happens, it's got its massive drawback, in that a no-deal Brexit, or a Brexit under WTO rules, as I like to call it, it doesn't solve the Northern Ireland border issue, and that obviously may either cause a resurgence of the troubles in Northern Ireland or the breakup of the United Kingdom. So this is something that they have to think about. And the chances are the EU will grant an extension. A 3-month extension, maybe up to 2 years, which is what Theresa May is asking for. Meaning another 2 years of May trying to pass off a different dead animal, I suppose, as an exit agreement from the EU, because like I say, they don't want to give you Brexit because it will possibly lead up to the breakup of the United Kingdom. They don't want to do that. Think of that. And obviously Theresa May will say it's either that, her no Brexit dead animal, or possibly no Brexit at all with a referendum, which is what I've said all along will probably lead to an extension and another referendum. At least one, I said. And that's what will happen in that time. All the time they will kick the can down the road as far as they can, just as they have in the last 3 years. Propagandizing us and scaring the public into thinking that no Brexit will mean the end of the world, and the skies will crumble, and the seas will roar, and the mantles will crash, and the volcanoes will spew, and the wind will blow, and all manner of disasters will happen. But of course, the people who are making these, the people who are saying these things and pretending that they know the future have never been right in the past, but all of a sudden what they say is absolute gospel. So we're going to have that for another 2 years. Another 2 years of demonising whatever is close to Brexit, because like I say, they don't want to give you Brexit. And all the time, they know that public unrest is obviously getting worse, because people know that if they do extend Article 50 and there's another referendum and we don't get a Brexit eventually, then essentially what they will be saying to people is democracy in the United Kingdom is irrelevant. What's the point of having the largest democratic vote in history if you're not actually going to implement it at all? And you're just going to decide, no, they were wrong. They were wrong. We know better. But here's the thing. They've proved that already. We don't need to crash out in a no-deal Brexit. They've already proved. Just look at this. 17.4 million people voted to leave, 16.1 million voted to remain. By constituency, 406 voted to leave, 242 voted remain. By constituency and party, Labour, 148 leave, 84 remain. Conservative, not 247 leave, 80 remain. And obviously by region, 9 said leave, 3 remain. So you would think that it's pretty easy to get through a consensus here. You think it's pretty easy to get on board and say, okay, the country wants Brexit. But right there at the bottom is your problem. By MP, 160 want leave, 486 remain. It's the MPs that are staying in, that are getting in the way of this. It's the MPs that are getting in the way of stopping Brexit because they are beholden to the establishment, not you. Take my MP, for instance, Emma Reynolds. From all intents and purposes, I thought she was a great MP. But I live in the black country, in an area in the black country that's been devastated by globalisation, that's been devastated by neoliberalism with the EU and globalisation. And those jobs have gone elsewhere. And then those people who've seen those jobs go elsewhere have then seen an influx of cheap labour coming from Eastern Europe and a load of gig economy jobs spring up. And they're sitting there thinking, hold on a minute, where's all these jobs in computer coding that you told us that we were going to get when you took our manufacturing jobs away? Do you remember? We're all going to be computer analysts. And they're pissed off. So the area I live in voted 2-1 almost to leave. Emma Reynolds is one of those 486 MPs that are pushing for to remain, or pushing for a second referendum she's pushing for. I dare say if you live in a leave constituency, the chances are your MP is one of them that's getting in the bloody way as well. Maybe you should, let them know. Because the MPs are proving in this country that voting is irrelevant. We told them to do something and they haven't done it. They haven't even tried to do it. They haven't tried to do it. This is not rocket science. It's a goddamn trade block. That's it. At least that's what you keep telling us. It's just a trade block. If it's just a trade block, why is it so bloody difficult to leave it? The MPs are blocking Brexit, and whatever happens in 10 days' time, they know they are pissing people off big time. They know it. They can see the unrest in this country. They are not blind. And they can see how unhappy we are. And remember, it's all this twat's fault. It's all this twat's fault. He was the one who started the ball rolling on this. And when it comes to whose fault it is for delaying this, it's the MPs, and ultimately it's the party in power, the Conservatives. Don't let them point the finger of blame anywhere else. Don't even entertain that. Don't even defend it. Just say, hey, it's your bloody fault. Don't try and pass the buck on anybody else. It's you, Twatty Cameron, and your twatty party, who care more about clinging to power than they do about serving their constituents and the people of this country. They've forgotten it's the people of this country they are meant to serve. It's the people of this country who are their bosses. Yet they just go and do something that the people told them the opposite to do. If we can't come out of a trading block after 3 years, what chance have we of learning to coexist with the planet instead of using it as a resource in 12? Just think about it. If after 3 years we can't exist as a trading block, what chance have we got of these idiots down in Westminster and in parliaments all over the world? What chance have we got of actually reversing the damage that we've done to this planet, which is suffocating our existence on it? What chance have we got? Absolutely none. It's the MPs, the ruling parties, the politicians, it's the establishment, it's the City of London, it's the bankers. They're the ones who are stopping progress. They're the ones who are getting in the way of it. These are the ones that have got to be gotten rid of. In the words of Monty Python, who did that great dead parrot sketch. And now for something completely different. That's what I want, don't you? Hey everyone. That was a long piece to camera, wasn't it? Straight on as soon as this stream starts. That's 11 years now, says Nicky M. Not 12, absolutely. Time is ticking and these idiots. I mean, they want another 2-year extension now. Are you kidding me? They want another, what, you think if she gets a 3-month extension, we're going to get a deal in 3 months? No, we're not. We're going to get another dead animal come back and another load of nonsense. We're just going to get another no Brexit versus possibly no Brexit at all option. That's what they're trying to, they're desperate to browbeat the public into voting the way that they want them to vote. So obvious. So obvious. Martin Evans says, in contrast to the UK, the EU are ready for Brexit. I suggest they will tell the UK to leave next week with no deal, and then the Farages, Bojos, Galloways and you, Gordon. We'll see if you're right. Well, we'll see. I don't think they'll say that. I don't think they'll because if crashing out, if they say, you know, crashing out of the EU as they say, if that happens, then you know what, keep an eye on Northern Ireland, because I can't see them taking that well. So I can't see the British establishment allowing it. So those 27 countries, it needs one of them. If one of them says niet or no or nada or whatever, I think niet is Russian, isn't it? So they won't get a vote. So if one of them says no, then we'll see. But I think at this stage, it's the only way you're going to get what people voted for. The only way we're going to get anything close to it. They certainly don't like democracy down in Westminster. Not from what I can tell, anyway. Well said, Gordon. I'd like to think my grandchildren will have something to look forward to, says Keith Durant. Well, I mean, I haven't got children. Imagine if I had children, you know, their children might not get born because of shit that's happening. I mean, if you think it's scary, climate change, what do you think? We have got a system here with capitalism and banking, etc., that rewards the most narcissistic and the most sociopathic of us, among us, to those in power. And I was listening to George Galloway this morning, and him talking with a great little podcast with Steve Topple. And Steve Topple was mentioning how, you know, people in high positions like Tony Blair and their narcissistic, sociopathic tendencies, it rubs off on the people around them, you know, people who look up at them and want to emulate their heroes who are in power, such as Tony Blair was at the time. And that rubs off on people, and they think, oh, this is the way I've got to carry on now. If you're electing those sort of people in power and you've got such catastrophic problems as climate change, what do you think that their solution would be? To come off fossil fuels and come off the gravy train and you know, to stop making money out of the largest subsidized industry and largest industry on the planet? Are they going to do that? Or are they going to maybe, I don't know, wipe out 90% of the planet in a global war because overpopulation is a real bloody problem? The sociopathic narcissists, remember, you know, we can't let it even get to the stage where they even contemplate that happening. Trust me, it's already too late. They're already thinking about it. I'm sure they are. Just look at what's happening in the world. We've got to stand up and act here, because otherwise, like Keith Durant just said, grandchildren might even not exist. Not that long. It's not that long. A couple of generations, it's not that long. I haven't got kids and I'm doing it. If you've got kids, you definitely should be more as active as you possibly can. Barnier says the EU is ready for a no-deal Brexit. Yeah, of course, Nicky. A no-deal. If we exit, if a Brexit, you know, that euro. I listen a lot to Mark Blythe. The stuff he said that I've listened to in the last couple of years has been absolutely bang on, and a lot of what he said has influenced my feelings with regards to what will happen with regards to Brexit. And so far, we've been right, and a lot of it was based on videos that I saw him do 2 or 3 years ago. And he says that the ECB is 3 times the size the Fed was in 2008 and twice as leveraged. Now, I don't know what that means, but Mark Blythe says it's pretty bad if it goes. If there's a crash, it's pretty bad. And I tend to defer to Mark Blythe's judgment because he's brilliant. Doesn't sound good. And I'm pretty sure that UK exiting might, you know, cause an unstable euro. You never know what's going to happen. And these are certain things that these people who are forecasting events never factor in. You know, there's all sorts of things that can bloody happen. These forecasters never saw the 2008 financial crash coming, did they? So why should we believe them now when they say, oh, we're going to lose 15% GDP and whatever? We might. We might. We might not. We might lose 5. We might lose 10. We might. But whatever it is, at least, you know, we've exited from a neoliberal construct that is pretty much ruining wages in this country and driving wages down through the floor. That's exactly what it's doing. Driving round your wages down through the floor so the EU and the efficient exporters and big capitalist companies can exploit their workers as much as possible and drive the wages down to Eastern European levels. And guess what? Hey, their goods are now competitive in the global market against China. Bad for workers, the EU is. You can see it plain as day. We've got to get out of it. And if we need to get out of it through a no deal, I think maybe that's the best, you know, way forward. The problem is crap. What happens with Northern Ireland? You know? But, you know, this is why I say that guy is such an utter twat. You would have thought that they would have thought of this back when they were giving the choice of a referendum, a yes-no referendum, without defining what no is, by the way. But you would have thought they'd thought of this. Say, oh, what about Northern Ireland? What about the Good Friday Agreement? Don't worry about it. We'll propagandise the people and we'll tell them what to think and they'll vote to remain and we'll be in power. That's okay, Jack. You know, rolled the dice and backfired on them royally. What a twat. Absolutely correct. Jamie Rowe says, in your opinion, are we all on the road to a shit show and is there any way to bail on this ride? We are on the road to a shit show. Yeah, it's all heading in disaster at the moment, Jamie. But you know what? Things are turning round. Yeah, I can see, you know, we've got to fight. We've just got to keep, more of us have got to keep the pressure on. We've got to keep the pressure on, not just with Brexit, but with the anti-Semitism stuff, but with Palestine, but with Yemen, but with Venezuela, but with universal credit. The lot of it. We've got on the banking system. We've got to keep on. You know what? Because the media aren't. The media aren't. It's the independent media that are really talking about the stuff that people are talking about, that affects people. And it's evident if you just look at the people who subscribe to me. I don't just have left-wingers subscribe to me. I have people who say they're on the right as well, all the time. They come on and they give me so much abuse every video I do. And then I say something right and they go, this is why I stay subscribed to your channel. This is why. They might disagree with me on some of the stuff that I put out, but a lot of the stuff they agree on. Well, because what I talk about is universal. The left and the right want 80% of it. This is why, you know, people in the media, in the mainstream media, and why people at The Guardian and The Independent and the BBC and etc., why they will rather talk about social issues, because that's where we're divided. That's what keeps us fighting each other. instead of fighting them. Remember, it's a class war. Guess which class these journalists at the Times and the Guardian and the Independent are in. Jesus, I'm furious about all this, says Pamela, and I think you and everybody else. You and everybody else. Nikki M says Islamophobia isn't tolerated on this channel. Correct. Nikki does a great job. Thank you very much to Nikki for moderating the thankless job. She doesn't get paid, so yeah, thank Nikki for it all. Islamophobia is not tolerated on this channel. Neither is any sort of racism or any sort of hate speech towards another group. However, if you want to come here and you want to talk and you want to talk about ideas, great. Let's talk about them. But just, you know, let's keep this Islamophobia. Let's stop blaming people who have got, you know, no power. Stop blaming the people who are really responsible, and that's the powerful. Cover another video. Story. About a week ago, actually no. Yeah, we'll do it a different way. Hi everyone. So, are you a Jimmy Dore subscriber? Jimmy Dore's a comedian from America who, if you're not aware, first of all, if you're not a subscriber, why not? What's the matter with you? And he is a journalist now. He used to be a comedian. He still calls himself a comedian, but he's doing a journalist job, and he's doing it better than the mainstream media over in America, time and time again. He did this video on the 14th. This is while I was on my break, and I saw this while I was on my break, and he said CNN caught lying about Venezuela by New York Times. He was covering a piece in the New York Times, and this is the New York Times. You can see there the date, March the 10th, 2019. And he did that a few days later. And the reason he did that video is because New York Times, with all the weight behind them, and all the reporters and all the money they've got behind them, and obviously the history and the, you know, the gravitas that this wonderful publication has got, they got to this scoop about the footage of that aid truck in Venezuela that was burning down. And CNN had said that their journalists had seen pro-Maduro folks set fire to them. Now, it didn't take long before independent media found out that it wasn't actually Venezuelans that had done this all. It was actually Colombia that had done it. And it was 10 days before they'd done this report. And the reason Jimmy did his video was because he covered it on the 28th of February. This guy in his comedian in his, you know, his garage doing this news show has covered CNN lying about the Venezuelan aid trucks 10 days, a full 10 days before the New York Times did. A full 10 days. This is the state of the media in America, and obviously over here it's the same as well, because he wasn't the only one that covered it 10 days before. This is what he said at the time in that video, by the way. I want to just say this because he's genius. How is it that he says, how is it that I, a guy who smokes pot when he wakes up in the morning and spent 20 years in nightclubs entertaining drunks, can do a better job of covering the news in Venezuela than CNN's team? And, obviously, covered the story, 10 days before the New York Times did. He wasn't the only one that covered it, because I covered it as well, on exactly the same day that Jimmy did. This report from the Grey Zone and other reporters who pieced together all the evidence to say that, yeah, it was actually from the Colombian side that set fire to this aid truck. It wasn't Venezuelans at all. CNN reporters were lying. And I said I also smoke pot in the morning, and I also covered the New York Times expose 10 days before they did, from 8,000 miles away from a council flat in the Black Country in the UK, from my front room, on a budget of less than $1,000 a month. On covering Venezuela better than the media in America are, including the New York Times. It takes them 10 days to catch up with me, let alone, you know, the other great people in independent media who all covered that story, and there were many of them. Jimmy and I weren't the only ones. There were many who covered that debunking of that ridiculous CNN story. See there's the date, 28th of February, I released it. This is the latest crap that they were having to put up with in Venezuela. This is the latest shit that they're trying. Now, the reality is, of course, it's not all, you know, pro-opposition in Venezuela. We'll get to that in a minute. But Reuters Venezuela tweeted this out. They said, desperate Venezuelans swarm sewage drains in search of water. They say there's a water shortage in Venezuela. We have to go in to help them. You know, obviously pushing the pro-humanitarian aid line that the Americans have taken, which is pathetic. This is the article. The desperate Venezuelans swarm sewage drains in search of water. But if you go to actual, you know, alternative media sources and trusted media sources, you can see their Venezuela analysis. Eva Bartlett's retweeted it, and we're on to them. Reuters Venezuela insisting on a lie, says Venezuela analysis, hoping it will stick. Water coming out is from an underground spring that flows into the Gaia River. This has been widely reported, and some of the people at the scene were interviewed at the time who assured that the water was not sewage. But they ran it anyway. That's the sort of stuff we're up against. Now, obviously, you know, they are all pro-regime change in the media. But if you go to another independent sources and trusted sources, we know where to find them now. This is Sarah Abdallah. Huge rally by the people of Venezuela against the United States coup attempt, sanctions and intervention on the streets of Caracas yesterday. These are the Venezuelans that the corporate media, Marco Rubio, Bolton and Elliot Abrams, want to pretend are non-existent. BBC don't even want to mention Elliot Abrams in any report. This is the guy who's overseeing this Venezuela coup now, who's been convicted of, you know, shipping arms in through aid deliveries into other South American countries to start coups and civil wars, lied about it to the Senate, was convicted of it, and then pardoned by George Bush. And now he's doing exactly the same thing, and the media don't want to cover it. But I mean, look at the size of this crowd. Look at the size of the crowd. This is, I mean, this was, so this was what, in the last 3 or 4 days. Have you seen any coverage of this in the media, in the Western media, on the CNN, in the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, Channel 4, BBC, Channel 5, Guardian? Have any of them shown any of the? Look at the size of the rally. They'll show a Guaido rally when there's 200 people there. Why aren't they showing this, the support for Maduro? Well, they won't, will they? Because it doesn't follow the narrative. It doesn't follow their regime change propaganda bullshit that they're feeding everybody, so they don't show it. They only show one side of the story. Here's the truth when it comes to Venezuela. Here's the truth. If you want to help Venezuela, drop the sanctions. Put pressure on America, put pressure on our government to drop the sanctions and give them their gold, free up their gold so they can start producing oil again and start taking care of themselves again. And stop with the bullshit. They're accepting aid. Just not from the country that's trying to bloody overthrow their democratically elected government and has been doing for the last 2 or 3 decades. Hi. That's, yeah, cut that, good. Future Gordon. Beth B says, love Jimmy Dore. Love him too, Beth. He's great. Love the guy. Joe Hickey, Vanessa Beeley. Joe Hickey says, Vanessa Beeley reported that Ilhan Omar supports opposition to Assad in Syria. It depends. It depends on what she said. It depends on what Ilhan Omar said. If Ilhan Omar says she supports people uprising against Syria in a popular movement, then I sort of agree with her. But obviously we know that would quickly get hijacked by Western powers, and the same way as they did with Timber Sycamore. I'll have to look into it. What I will say is this. Ilhan Omar's been great. And if I saw a Syrian girl going on at her because, you know, she came out and says she supports a two-state solution, having a go at her. Well, you know, okay, have a go at her and what have you. And it's okay to hold their feet to the fire. She's been great, but that doesn't mean that Ilhan Omar shouldn't get criticised when it's warranted. And if it's warranted, and if she said something that Vanessa Beeley disagrees with, if anybody knows anything about what's happening in Syria, then it's going to be Vanessa Beeley. Then Vanessa Beeley rightly should hold her feet to the fire and educate her. So, yeah, I'll look into it. Neil Gardner says Richie Allen still takes Sibel Edmonds' line on Vanessa Beeley, claims she's not an Assal apologist. That's Sibel Edmonds, Neil. Isn't that news, bud? Sibel Edmonds. I do not believe that is a trusted source of information, news, but I've seen a couple of things that have made me think that. Is there a character limit on the chat? I believe it's 200, Stephen Davis. Yeah, 200, I think it is. 200 characters. I will be checking Jimmy Dore out, says Cat Cancan. Yeah, go and give him a subscribe. Honestly, you won't regret it. You won't regret it. He's the best source of news for America, for sure. Him and Carl Kalinske, secular talk, I would say. Forget all the others. Just forget them. They're the only two really you need for your American news. Venezuela, obviously, you got the Grey Zone Project and Abby Martin and those. Syria, there's people like Vanessa Beeley and Eva Bartlett, and Kev Almasian is very good on Syria. I think he's covering it from Germany. He's a Syrian. Partisan Girl is very good as well. She's in Australia, Syrian in Australia. I'll have to do a video on all these areas where I get the information from. Source of information though. All in good time. Upstate Raider, what do you think about the US blocking ICC members' visas? Why is the US blocking the International Cricket Club's visas? I haven't heard of it, mate. I haven't heard that yet. I'll look into it because I only came back from the break like yesterday and I was knackered, so yeah, I went very quickly to sleep. Today's really the first time I've got back into it. I'll have a look at it. Bernard Madoff has just mentioned, obviously, Jamal Thomas as well, who is my buddy. Jamal Thomas, for sure. You should check him out. I want to show a couple of things here, guys. And girls, obviously. I'll show a couple of things. First of all, this is from the Mirror. Spot the difference. A friend's sister sent this to me, was talking about it. She spotted this. I don't know where. ISIS maniac kills 50 in gay club was one of their headlines. Do you remember? I think that was talking about the was it Florida? And then this massacre that happened over in New Zealand, Christchurch. Angelic Bloy, who grew into an evil far-right mass killer. You see the difference there? Those two headlines. It just shows you the hypocrisy and the double standard, really. And it shows you why people are coming to more and more to channels like mine for sources of information, because there's no way that I would cover those two instances so differently. There's a double standard there. They're not being honest. They're not being consistent. If ever I'm not consistent, please hold my feet to the fire and let me know. Send me an email. Send me the two instances that I'm not being consistent. And if you're right, I'll rectify it. I never want to ever be accused of doing that sort of shit and changing the rhetoric depending on who, you know, whether it goes along with whatever message I'm trying to push. And then there's this from the Times. This is perhaps the worst headline I've seen in years. And that really is going some. Don't forget, you know, The Guardian published a totally fake story on Manafort. But this is how Trump can save Venezuela from Putin. That was in the Times. The Times. Our media is broken, everybody. It's broken. And you know what? I don't know whether I can fix it on my own. I don't think I can. But I'm going to give it a shot. So, what I'm announcing tonight is a journalism drive. And if I go over to my website and I go to, let me put it in the chat. Bear me a second. All right. So if you go to that URL that I've just put in the chat, I'll leave it underneath the video as well. If you go to gordondimmack.com and click how to support me, and on the drop down click journalism drive, I intend on getting out there and covering all the events that are going to be happening in the coming weeks and months from the ground. Because you know what? Nobody else is going to cover them. Look at France, they're not covering the Yellow Vest movement, which I think is into its 19th week at the moment. They're not covering it, and they're not showing any reports of it at all in the media, and it's still going on. There's still violence over there. It's still going on. They're still fighting back against Macron and the neoliberalism and the elites, you know, raping the economy over in France. So what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the ground and start going wherever the action is. And I know that on April the 15th next month, there is going to be a massive movement in London and elsewhere in other cities around the world. I've got to get the date. I think it's about the middle of April next month. The Extinction Rebellion are going to be in London. And last time they obviously shut down a load of bridges. And this time I expect the same to be happening. So I want to go down there. I want to get on the ground and I want to start talking to people and start showing the bubbling unrest that climate, and start showing the faces of the people who are going to be affected by climate change, and the faces of the people whose families and offspring and grandchildren are going to be massively affected by climate change and the decisions that we are making today, or rather the shitty decisions that the MPs are making today in direct opposition to what we want them to do. So I want to go down there and I want to cover it, but I need your help to do it. Because I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of our Mockingbird media. I'm sick and tired of them misrepresenting people. I'm sick and tired of them skewing the narrative. I'm sick and tired of them, you know, propagandizing and lying to us and feeding us on bullshit. I'm sick and tired of them only showing one side of the story, and I'm sick and tired of them only showing what reinforces their narrative and totally ignoring anything that doesn't go along with their narrative, such as this massive crowd in Venezuela that I just showed you, that they never showed you, that was in support of Maduro. I want to go down there and I want to speak to these people. And if it goes well, who knows? France is only a train ride away. It's only a train ride to Paris, a couple of trains. If it goes well, why not go over to Paris next and cover from the ground over there and have an English person on the ground? You know, that's what I'm thinking. I've already got somebody who's agreed to be sort of my camera person and help out and sort of donate their time. They don't realise they're not getting paid yet, but they soon will, or at least when they see this. So what I need now is the equipment. And for that, I need your help. I estimate it's probably going to be about $500 needed for some equipment for me to get out and about and be able to produce things at a professional level. So, you know what? If people fund me, I'll go down there and I'll cover these bastard stories that the media aren't. What do you think, everyone? Why not try? Why not try? And with your help, you know, hopefully we can change this shitty media and this shitty situation that we're in. And with your help, I can be a voice there for, I suppose, these voiceless people on the ground who the media are ignoring, or certainly are misconstruing what they want and what their narrative is. That's what I wanted to announce tonight, everyone. What do you reckon? I'll be in London from 15th of April for 2 weeks, Gordon Dimmack says. Nikki M. Well, Nikki, get in touch. We'll meet up there, Nikki. I think it's the 15th of April, isn't it? The Extinction Rebellion. I know you were at the last one. So, yeah, we'll go down and cover it. But, yeah, I need the equipment. I can't obviously do it from the phone. I need camera and, you know, battery pack. And because whenever I use my phone, it just, you know, ends up sounding and looking terrible. So, I've got lots of footage from the Assange rally, I think week before last, that I've got to cut and put in a video. I didn't have a chance because I've been away for a few days. And I'll be doing that over the next couple of days. There's going to be more stuff like that, but obviously it'll be released as and when I record it if I'm down on the ground down there in London next month. Thanks to everybody who's given me support in the chat, and everybody seems very supportive. I can send you details of the Extinction Rebellion plans, Gordon Dimmack. Please do, Nikki. Gordon at gordondimmack.com. Just send me send me what you got, and I need to get down there and I need to record these people and record what they say, because I know the media are going to misrepresent them. And I know if there's any kind of trouble down there, they're going to actually put a different spin on it than really. I mean, look at what happened last time. I think was it Joe? Was it Joe Hickey, or was it Nikki, who were subscribers who were down at the Extinction Rebellion last time? I think it might have been Nikki. The media were making out that they were spray painting the building, you know, with permanent spray. Do you remember? And Nikki was the one who set me straight on it and said no, it was actually just. It washes off with water. It's a water-based thing. It's not permanent. You know, so even those little things they're getting wrong. I won't get those things wrong if I'm down on the ground. I want to represent what the people think, not what the media want to tell the people. Farouk asks, what do you think about Michael Brooks? I admire him. I don't know who he is, mate. Don't know who he is. We Are Change covered the Yellow Vest protest, but he doesn't speak any French, says Neil Gardner. We Are Change is a channel that I only found out about the weekend, and I watched a few of that guy's videos. He's really good. He is. That We Are Change guy. He's really good. They do not make it easy to find independent media online, guys. They do not make it easy. There is no way you can go to just say, who are these people? They don't make it easy at all. There are some great people who've got 200, 300,000 subscribers, and I've never heard of them. Make it almost impossible to find. Yeah, it was the chalk spray thing, says Nikki. Yeah, I knew it was. Just stuff like that. I won't get that. You know, I want to get it. I want to get down there on the ground. I love it. I want to get down there on the ground and speak to people and have them tell me what's the problem, and then have them tell you why they're there, rather than the media in this country skewing the narrative and missing out in facts that are inconvenient to the establishment. Thank you, Uncle Trina. That's very nice of you, what you just said. Majority Report, Michael Brooks. Oh, well, Mission just said Majority Report, Michael Brooks. What do I think of Michael Brooks? There you go. I've seen actually, thinking about it, is Michael Brooks the one I saw the other day who was I saw him do a piece on anti-Semitism the other day, and it was really quite good. So you know what? Maybe I haven't seen enough of his stuff. Yeah. I know Sam Cedars an arsehole. I assume Michael Brooks is the guy that Jamal calls his work wife. We are changes alt-right as well. He's controlled opposition. He's the pretty face behind Laura Southern, says Learned Hand. I didn't get the impression he was alt-right. I saw some of his videos. He took pretty good sense. I don't get the impression he's alt-right at all, mate. You know, and if he is, hey, the alt-right are right on stuff, on some stuff, because his videos were absolutely correct. People would stop labelling things. Wish people would stop labelling, you know. I'll try and get you a press pass, Nikki. Please do. If you could, that would be awesome. That would be brilliant. Get a press pass for me and my little camera person. Literally little camera person. Is it very difficult? Patricia Brannigan, is it very difficult when both you and Jimmy Dore are off for a while? It is very difficult when both you and Jimmy Dore are off for a while at the same time. Oh, Patricia, I'll have to speak to Jimmy. We'll see if we can, you know, stagger our breaks. Farouk says Michael Brooks is good. He is the co-host. He's good on Venezuela. I saw him do something. He was debating somebody on anti-Semitism, and he was very good. He was very, very good. In fact, it just goes to show it. Even if people are wrong on some things, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't listen to them, or you shouldn't, you know. Yes, Brooks defending Omar against the British too. That's what I saw. Basil Peterson just said, and that's what I saw. And Neil Gardner just asked a really, really good question. What the hell is it alt-right? You're either pro-establishment or anti-establishment. Thank you, Neil. That's what I mean. What the hell is alt-right? I mean, it might be. Learned Hand says it is, and Learned Hand is a pretty, you know, he's a pretty intelligent guy. Even if he is, he's still fighting, you know, he's still fighting against the same things we are fighting against 90% of the time. It's just 10% of the time he's fighting against stuff that you don't agree with, you know? As I've explained. Well, yeah, fight him on that, fine. But don't, you know, shut him out or shut his or tell people to shut what he says out if 90% of the time he's actually fighting for the same things that you are. I'm not sure that he is, of course. I only saw the channel over the weekend, but I'll tell you this, from what I saw, it's 10 times better than anything you'll get on the fucking TV or cable. Oz Whistle says, get out in the world, but keep your BS detector set to max. Oh, it always is, Oz. Oh, it always is, mate. Lawrence Taylor says, Gordon, I can help you in France with the language and transportation. Excellent. That's great stuff. Pam Ryan says, you got a shout out on Jimmy's show last week, Gordon. Yeah, somebody... I think Ron said he's really supportive. Ron Placone, who he's got his own channel on YouTube. Get your news on with Ron, which is great. Fantastic idea. That is, it's getting really quite popular as well, which is good to see. He's got a great saying about climate change and about these centrists and Blairites that are all, you know, trying to incrementally get to the 2% or whatever. He's got a great saying. I'll try and get it right. He says something like, there's no such thing as a pragmatic solution to a catastrophic problem. which I think is fantastic. Because that's what they're trying to come up with at the moment, aren't they? These MPs and these, you know, in the power in these Western countries and Gulf countries, etc. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to, you know, pragmatically get to where, you know, wherever they need to be. Guess what? It's a catastrophic problem we're facing. We need a radical solution. Incrementalism isn't going to work, and pragmatism is definitely not going to work. We need to smash the system is what we need if we're going to turn this round. And if not, you know what? Those people in power, they are sociopaths. I'm just getting down to the bottom of the comments now, guys, and then we're going to get to the end of the stream. Ronnie's amazing, says I bought you. Yes, he is. He's absolutely great, and he's a good guy. Lawrence Taylor just said he's a good guy, and that's correct. He's a very good guy. He's on the right side of history, and I like people who are on the right side of history. That's it for the live stream tonight, everyone. I want to say a big thank you to all the people who support me, all the people who tune in, who like the stream, who share, all the people who support me on Patreon, and on PayPal, on Bitcoin. All the ways you can support me are down there. Thanks very much. Just thanks for all the support. The nice message. Thanks for everybody who sends me emails and giving me tips. I've got more interviews coming up. I've got a couple of interviews lined up with people that are going to be very interesting, one of which I'm very looking forward to this week. It's really an interesting story that we're going to be talking about, and that's with regards to the Labour anti-Semitism stuff. That's interesting. That's coming up. I've obviously got to release the video that we did from the Julian Assange vigil. Obviously, what I've got tonight, and I'll be tagging it to the media as usual, giving them a good battering over the next coming days. There we are. Thanks very much to everybody. My dog's asleep in the bed by the looks, so she's not going to come and say hello to everybody tonight. Before I leave, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody. I think that's all I covered tonight. I think that's all I wanted to cover. I've got a feeling I missed something. I forgot something. Oh well, kind of been that important to everybody. Thanks very much, everybody. I shall see you again tomorrow, and we'll see you next week for the live stream. Take care, everyone. Peace. Love you all.